Okay. Well, hi everyone. This is the first time I have a meeting with a person in English. So, well, this is not my language, is Spanish. So please forget my, I don't know, if I do a word that is not correct, but I will try my best. Well, I'm very happy to introduce you a person that I admire a lot. I have read her books, and they really change my perspective of many things, especially regarding the multi-dimensional things that we are. We are the multi-dimensional beings. And well, her name is Trish Lesage, Trish, from now on. And I will please ask her to introduce herself and, well, talk about a little bit when you began with this, well, multidimensional game, because she began to travel to parallel universes with all of her conscious. I mean, not forgetting that she was going from one universe to another one. So please, Trish, talk about yourself a little bit, and then we'll begin with the questions.
Hello, thank you for having me. I really appreciate it. It's really good to be here to tell everybody of my experiences. Yeah, I began going through a spiritual awakening back in 2005. And what happened was I had this out of body experience. I could feel myself, leaving my physical body. My sister had gone to a chiropractor who was very spiritual and into metaphysics, and he was speaking with her about it. And while she was laying on the table, the chiropractor table, she had an out of body experience and she told me about it. So I intentionally tried to will myself out of my physical body. And after I was successful, it kind of opened up a big can of worms, because after that, my life was never the same again. I mean, I just had all these different experiences. I could see my deceased loved ones, my family members, and others. And then it just seemed to open me up, the third eye, as we say in English. I could hear things, I could see things, experience so much from the spirit world, and then I started reading a lot of books. I couldn't get enough, I was buying books off from Amazon, reading all of these spiritual and metaphysical books. And then I started telling people about my experiences informally out on Facebook. And then I started writing articles and submitting them to magazines and digital magazines or e-zines. And then I started writing my books, and people started coming to me and saying, hey, I've had this experience. What do you think of it? Trying to help people through their own spiritual and metaphysical experiences, especially with the parallel universes. People were coming to me and telling me their stories and wondering what I could make of it, what I thought of it. And so that's really how I got started in all of this. It wasn't planned. It was totally a surprise. It was totally unexpected. And here I am. So
Well,
many years later, 19 years later.
19 years old, yeah, you have had quite a journey, a
Yeah.
multidimensional journey. As I have told you before, I reached you because I was trying to understand the term parallel universes, because I had an experience with my astral body that I went through the mirror of my habitación door.
Your bedroom.
My bedroom, yeah, my bedroom. So I crossed the mirror, and I began to talk to another version of myself. But this was all on the astral plane. But it is important that you explain that the experience that you are having crossing through to parallel universes with all of your conscious is not an astral experience like I did, but is a physical experience. Can you explain a little bit about that, please?
Sure. Yeah, that's a very important point that you make, because I think some people get confused, and I know by, people making comments, they think that I'm talking about astral travel or lucid dreaming even. And this is not about astral travel nor lucid dreaming. It's about actually physically going from one universe to another. You're going about your daily routine, you're driving your car down the road, you're out taking a walk, whatever, and all of a sudden you notice that you're in a place that doesn't seem quite like home. There's something, the little details that you pay attention to, and it's just not the same as what you've seen for years and years and years, or even a few minutes ago.
Okay. And the first time that you realized you had crossed from one universe to another one, that moment is when you left your, what you call your original universe. Yes, universe of origin. And why did you cross? Did something happen on your universe of origin that made you cross to another universe? It was to avoid something? It was for why?
That's a very good question, because I always think that something that happened, just a few years ago is what led me and started this experience for me of going from one universe to another. But now that I think back, because I'm always analyzing, like trying to figure out when exactly did I leave my original universe, and it's very questionable, because I can remember even way back when I was 17 years old, right after I graduated from high school, actually, that summer, right after I graduated from high school, things seeming different. So I'm now beginning to question whether or not I actually, at first started to cross over to parallel universes at a much younger age. Right after I graduated from high school, I was that summer. Here in the United States, after you graduate from high school, you have what's called the graduation open house. And you invite you go and have the graduation at the school. You take place in a ceremony to graduate at the school, the graduation, but you also usually have a party, a big party with all your family and friends. And, it's kind of strange, because I lived in a small community of about 200 people. And so everybody knows everybody. It's a rural town. And so there were probably 500 people there. And it was kind of like, the way I'm thinking of it now, if I left way back then, I was saying goodbye to everybody in a sense. Everybody came to my party. And right after that, I noticed things that were different too. So it makes me wonder if I truly did do it recently for the first time, or way back when I was 17 years old. But a more recent time was, some things happened in which details, I paid attention to the small little details of things and noticed differences here at home. And so I always thought, well, that's when I started going to parallel universes for the first time. But now I'm thinking that, I don't know, maybe it really started. And the thing of it is, if you're not paying attention to the small details, you won't notice. And I wasn't into metaphysics back then, nor the spiritual. So I had no clue. I could have gone on for 2 decades and not even realized I'd gone anywhere until now. I'm,
Yeah.
much older and I've experienced so much. I'm looking back and thinking, wait a minute, something could have happened way back when I was a kid.
Yeah, that makes sense, because that's usually something that happens to, I mean, everybody.
No,
They you realize something afterwards,
right.
after it happens. Okay, then, but when you really, I mean, there is a moment in your life that when you say, well, there's no question about this. I have changed this reality. I was somewhere else, and now I am in a different. It looks pretty much the same, but there are details that definitely are not similar. I mean, are similar, but they're different. And which was the first main difference? The first main difference that you say, well, this is another thing. I am in another world. What was it?
Okay, it happened one early evening. I decided to go to the gym to do some exercise. And I got there and I noticed that my fiance, he arrived about a half an hour after I arrived at the gym. And so I ended up finishing before he did. And so I went home probably a half an hour before he came home. And I noticed that in the shower, it was all wet. Like he had been in there and he showered. There were drops of water everywhere. And I thought, well, that's strange. He took a shower before he went to the gym. Normally, people take a shower after they come back home from the gym. And then I live in Michigan, in the United States, in Michigan. Michigan is humid. So when someone takes a shower, it takes a good 3-4 hours for all of the water to dry out of the shower. And so I noticed that the shower was very wet. There were droplets of water everywhere. But for some reason, I went back into the bathroom maybe 5-10 minutes later, and there wasn't a drop of water anywhere. It was like the whole shower was completely dry. And I'm like, what is going on? I mean, where's the water? It takes 3 to 4 or 5 hours for the water to go. Well, then my fiance came home from the gym like a half an hour later and he got in the shower and took a shower. So I'm like, why is he taking another shower? So, okay, I started thinking, this is weird. This is strange. I'm probably, and by that point, I was already reading metaphysical books and everything. I was starting to put two and two together that maybe I crossed over somewhere else where the total opposite scenario happened. In one universe, he took a shower and went to the gym. Therefore, when I got home a half an hour before him, the shower was all wet. But I crossed over to another universe and went into the bathroom, and there was no water in the bathroom. And in that universe, he came home a half an hour later and took a shower. So the total opposite scenario took place from one universe to another. And so at that point, I thought something strange is going on here. So I started paying attention to little details, and I started to notice that, okay, there's something going on, not only that day, but now into the future, all the way many years later as well. You're like being out on a walk in a tree that was never there before, on the same path that I've walked down for years and years, is now there and looks like it's been there for several years. And just things like that, just noticing the small details of things being different from one place to another.
Okay. I know that many people have gone through some similar experiences. They usually say, well, I'm losing my mind. I forgot. The keys were in there, but probably I just put them in the other room and whatever. I mean, the first thing we do is we question ourselves, our mind. No, that's not possible. And I have a brother who is into metaphysics too. And there was a moment in Venezuela that there was not a lot of food available. Cans, tuna cans. They were not available. Tuna cans. Tuna, yeah, tuna.
Yeah, tuna fish, yeah.
And he loved to eat, and he wanted my mother to make a tuna salad or something that he made with tuna. Well, then he said, well, my mother said, well, go to a supermarket, see if you can find tuna cans. And we said, no, you're not going to find it. Nobody can. He was so wanted to find it. So he went into a supermarket, and there was a lot of tuna cans, several brands. No, well, he took a lot of cans, and he bought them and went home. We were like, where did you find that? He understood. He crossed over to another universe because he was very he wanted to eat that. So sometimes it's not really that you plan, but
Right.
your desires and
Right.
your energy are so focused on something that you cross over, and then you cross back and you don't realize that you did. And
Right.
that happens a lot when you have like you're in your vehicle and in a highway, and there's a lot of traffic, and then maybe you don't have any traffic. You get to the place, and then you hear, yeah, there was a lot of traffic, and you say, well, but I didn't see the traffic. Those are little things that many people do experience, because you go to another universe, and then you go back. And that was something that I know that your experience in this issue is a little different, because you go to another universe, and then you stay in that one. You don't go back. You go to then another one. So can you explain that? And then when did you begin to realize that you have energy changes in yourself, real energy changes that say, okay, I am going to pass to another a version of the earth or parallel universe, because you begin to I don't see, you knew you were going to. What happened? What changed?
Yeah, sometimes your comments about staying in universes and everything, yes, sometimes I go to universes and I might stay for a long time, and sometimes it's just brief. It just all depends. But yeah, usually though, there is a change, an energy adjustment that takes place. So if I've had to go to a parallel universe that's at a higher energy vibration, either I'll feel my energy vibration increasing automatically, or if I want to actually go to another parallel universe that is at a higher energy vibration, I heal myself energetically. I used to be an energy healer in the past, so I can change my energy vibration to increase it and leave where I'm at and go somewhere else. Sometimes, however, you need to go to a universe that may be of a lower energy vibration, and so you can feel your body adjusting. The energy, you can sometimes feel heavy energy, sometimes negative energy coming in, and you can literally feel your energy level going down. And so in those cases, it happens automatically. Some very rarely do I try to intentionally lower my energy vibration, because it's just very uncomfortable to go to these lower vibration universes that are at a lower energy vibration. I mean, it feels uncomfortable. I mean, the energy may feel negative, it may feel dissonant, it might feel very uncomfortable. And not only that, when a universe is at a very low energy vibration, for me, it even becomes difficult to breathe sometimes. So I kind of want to avoid being there. But if I have to go for any particular reason, I can either focus on negative things. And I commented in our Spanish interview that, you know, I noticed one day that I was watching TV and I had recorded a program about history, about different states in the United States, thinking that it would be, you know, like a tourist type show. I thought, oh, I love to travel, so I'm going to watch this show about, you know, such and such a state in the United States. But they were focusing on, you know, the wars and all the battles that took place and all this negativity. And it just felt so draining. And I could literally feel my energy vibration decreasing and going down. And I ended up in another universe, one that was at a lower energy vibration. And interestingly, with the television, it seems that sometimes watching negative programming like that, it might happen instantaneously that I end up going to a lower vibration universe, or it might take a half an hour or an hour of watching something that's negative, you know, and then I end up going somewhere else. So it's pretty interesting that we if you don't want your energy level to go down, just kind of try to avoid the negative programming on TV.
Yeah, that I think that well, that what you felt in that moment and what you experienced is very interesting, because we can say, okay, I have done that many times. I have watched movies that take me down because they are violence, war, drugs, whatever. And your mind doesn't make a difference between reality and what you're watching.
Right.
So it is very important that you have explained that experience. Usually we just don't realize we have changed our reality because
Right.
of the music we hear, the news we are hearing, or whatever. And that is the difference between living with conscious and with living without consciousness.
Right.
I mean, living like a robot, or living your life at a multidimensional consciousness.
Right.
That you live in a reality that you really co-create what you are going to experience. And if you lower your vibration, you will enter into a universe. And then if you go up, and then you will, well, experience something else. But and that we're going to go to the next question. Okay, there is one thing that you talk about. Well, I wanted to say that right now, Trish has wrote many books that are incredible. They are so detailed about what we can feel, the changes about, for example, the TV shows on one universe and the TV shows on another universe. People that are dead in one universe and alive in another universe. Are there sometimes many differences between universes, and everything is on her books. And you can acquire the books on her webpage that I will write down in the description of this video. So this interview is just little things that she can say, but if you want the details, that will really help you understand what is going on right now on our Earth, because timelines are changing very quickly right now. And every little thing that we do is making a lot of changes in our life. We have to be very aware right now with what we do, with what we watch, what we read, what we eat, everything. Yeah. Can you tell us the books that you have written so that people know? Just the
Yeah,
list.
sure. Yeah, the book about parallel universes is called Traveling to Parallel Universes. And like you said, it's a very detailed account of my personal experiences of traveling to parallel universes. And also it contains stories about other people that have true stories of other people's experiences traveling to parallel universes. And I put some scientific research in there as well, you know, to explain to people that scientists are even, you know, noticing in laboratory settings, you know, things that are happening with different particles and different things that are disappearing and things like that, making them realize that even at that level, you know, things are happening. They're taking notice with their experiments and everything. And I have written a book also for those that are aware of the fifth dimension and what we say in English 5D, going to higher consciousness. The book is called How to Achieve Fifth Dimension Consciousness. And that book is just about, it's related about what we were just speaking about some of the things that we can do to keep our energy levels higher, you know, about the television programming and the eating and what we focus on in our lives, in the hopes that it helps people to, you know, be at a higher level of energy and get people prepared and ready to be the best person that they can be, their divine self, so that they can hopefully experience, you know, being at a higher level of consciousness during these times that we're living in. So that book is helpful for people that are interested in improving themselves and, you know, becoming the divine, connecting with the divine selves that they are. And then I have a book that I wrote about numerology. Numerology is very interesting. It's about the energy again, about the energy that surrounds us in our lives, and you know, how we can figure out what energy is influencing our lives. And that book is Manifesting Success in Relationships and Career and Business via Numerology. And so if anybody's interested in what kind of energy is surrounding them in their lives, and how they can apply it in their lives to their businesses, their careers, their relationships, whatever, that's a good book. And then the last one, I studied hypnosis. And so I do past life regression to help people explore their past lives. And hypnosis is really good for a lot of things. You can explore your past lives, but you can also get you can lose weight by using hypnosis. You can manage your pain, like if you have pain. You can even do things like improving your if you golf, play golf, or if you have fear speaking in front of people, public speaking, you can use it for that. You can use it for so much. They even use it for hypnobirthing, when people are giving birth, hypnotize the pregnant women that are giving birth so that they don't experience pain when they're having a baby. Just really incredible and interesting things it's used for. But anyways, the book Meditations for Past Lives, Starseeds, Soulmates and Beyond is a book that actually has meditations in it that people can, you know, record on their computer or on their phone or on a handheld tape recorder, digital tape recorder, record what I've written there in the book, and then listen back to it while they're relaxing and explore their past lives on their own. Explore, look at their soul. We have colors to our soul. Look at their aura. Just all sorts of unique, interesting things that they can do with it. And if they don't feel comfortable doing it on their own, they can always contact me through my website, and we could set up maybe through Zoom or a telephone call or something through the WhatsApp to
Great.
do a past life regression or, anything they want to explore.
Great. Wow. Well, perfect. Then now everybody knows how to contact you and what they can, well, learn a lot more about what we're talking right now. I would like you to right now tell me a little bit about I know there is an experience that you said that you travel to another universe and then you realize a woman that you know, she was nothing into metaphysics in one universe, but she was into metaphysics in another universe. Can you talk a little bit about that experience?
Yeah, it's really interesting because people can be different from one universe to another. I mean, I've noticed even people have different careers. Like they're an accountant in one universe and they're not in another. And so yeah, this particular person that I'm thinking of um is interested in metaphysics in one universe and not in the other. And it's so interesting because people can be like that. People's personalities can be different. Someone might be more outgoing in one universe and not so outgoing or not outgoing at all in another. I mean, even in my own personal life, my fiance in one universe, it was so strange. He seemed older. He even looked older and he seemed kind of grumpy and
Wow.
and not like the best you know he just didn't behave in a way that was very joyful, I guess you could say. But I noticed that when I went to another universe, he looked younger for some reason, and he was just happy go lucky, kidding around and joking around and laughing. So his personality was complete opposite from one universe to another. And it's strange because right before that happened, I dreamt while I was sleeping that he had a twin. And I thought, twin, what are they talking about? In my dream, he doesn't have a twin. But then when I had this experience of parallel universes, the older looking version of him and grumpier version of him versus the younger looking, happy go lucky, friendly version of him, it started to connect. And I thought maybe that's what the dream meant. He had a twin, like there's one version of him in one universe and another version of him in another universe with totally different personalities. So yeah, people can have totally different interests, totally different personalities, different careers. I mean, they can even look a little bit different. I mean, I was in one universe and my hair was totally gray. And I went, and this just happened the other day too, went to another universe and there wasn't a gray hair on my head. My hair looked blonde.
Wow.
And this has happened several times over the past several years, and it just happened to me a few days ago. And I look in the mirror and I think, oh my goodness, I look so horrible. I need to like go get my hair colored because it's so gray and horrible looking. I'm going on an interview here with Natacha, and I'm gonna look old and gray and horrible and end up in another universe.
Wow.
And there's not a gray hair on my head. It looks more blonde than it looks gray. So yeah, it can be totally different from one place to another. And it's these types of instances that are bigger differences that you notice that you're saying, yeah, I've definitely left and I've gone somewhere else. There's no mistaking it.
Well, yeah, but all that you're explaining has to make us realize that really time and things are a lot more flexible than they look.
Right,
And
exactly.
yeah, and definitely, well, if we begin to understand that, we can manage to use our creation faculties or powers or whatever to really make our life better for us and for others. Also, one of the things that I wrote on your book that really was very funny is when you were watching the weather channel, and the one you were watching, and can you tell that experience, because it's not only the character of the people or the hair or whatever, but also the weather changes radically from one universe to another.
Yeah, that's, one perfect example. You could be sitting there, like in Michigan, where I live, the weather does have extreme swings. I mean, we always kid and say, it could be sunny one minute and raining, of course, the next. But in this particular case, we get tornadoes here. We don't live on the coast, so we don't get hurricanes, but we can get tornadoes. They're not very frequent, but in the summer months, June, July, August, the winds, you got the northern air coming down, trying to come down from Canada and from the Arctic, and then you got the Gulf of Mexico, the air, warm, hot, humid air mixing with that colder, drier Arctic air. And it can create a very windy scenario. And it happens a lot in the wintertime, because in the wintertime we get blasted all the time with the cold air from the Arctic, of course. And every now and then we get the nice Florida air coming up in the Gulf of Mexico air, and it's 50 degrees Fahrenheit like it's going to be in a couple days from now, and here we are in February. So, but it can create a lot of wind because it's not usual, it's not normal. And in the summer, we can get these wind gusts of 60 miles per hour, even higher than that. And so I was watching the news, because I like to tune into the news on TV to see what's going on with this tornado that they spotted 20 miles away from my home. What's the path that it's taking? Because in a tornado, you want to take cover. You want to get down to a low point of your home, get into the basement if you have one. If you don't, get into an interior room like a bathroom. So you want to watch TV to see the weatherman tell you, where it is and where they expect it to come. And they know exactly at what time it's going to be in what town and what city. And so I'm watching the news, and they said that a tornado was coming, that it was bad. And we're advising people to take cover and everything. And then the next moment, I'm watching TV and watching the news, and there's no mention of a tornado at all whatsoever. Everything's fine and normal. There's no bad weather coming, no tornado coming. Everything's fine, and no mention of it at all whatsoever. So exactly what you said, even the weather can be totally different from one universe to another. I mean, it just all depends, on a lot of different factors, like, I guess, the energy and whatever from one place to another.
And people living alive in one universe and dead in the other one. Have you noticed that too?
From living a life.
A person that is alive in one universe and is dead in the other one.
Yeah, I have. What it's interesting that you mentioned that, because what you mentioned has been named the Mandela effect, because of the leader Mandela being dead in one moment in one universe and alive in another. And I have experienced that, and I write about it in my book, Traveling to Parallel Universes. The actress from the TV show from back in the 1970s, Jean Stapleton, she played the role of Edith Bunker in the TV show All in the Family, I believe it was called. And she was said to be dead in one universe, but she wasn't in another. And I thought, what, what's going on? Because I'll hear stories. There's a lady, Cynthia Sue Larson. She's an author. She writes an online newsletter called Reality Shifters. And a lot of times people will write in and say, hey, somebody was dead in this universe and alive in another. And so I noticed the differences between Jean Stapleton being alive and dead in one universe, because she mentioned Jean Stapleton in her newsletter, and I was scratching my head. I was saying, wait a minute, is she alive or dead? So, and it's even, related to that, even not only with the people that are alive or dead. And I've never even written about this in my book at all. I don't believe it's in my book, because I wrote this book a few years ago, and so I can't remember exactly everything that's in there. But it's even a case of some people that don't even exist and never have existed in one universe to the other. And one perfect example of that, and I want to include this in another book, or I write another book, so you guys get a sneak peek of a future book if I write book number 2. The author, Cynthia Sue Larson, that I just mentioned, I bought her book, or she sent it to me as a gift. I can't remember which, but anyways, on the back of her book, she had a picture of herself, and she told me in an email that her son took that picture of her, the picture that she has of herself on the back of her book. Well, a little bit after that, she said she only had 2 daughters, no son. She had her daughter Elena and her daughter Tesla. And I told her, well, you told me that your son took that picture of you and that you have on the back of your book. And she said she doesn't have a son. I thought, okay. So not only are people dead and alive sometimes from one universe to another, but there are children that don't even exist in one universe, but they did in another, which is kind of sad when you think about it, because she doesn't have the son, and to my knowledge she hasn't had a son since in any of these other universes. So
that's very, very interesting. Well, I have told you, but I have noticed about my multidimensionality, but through my astral travels and the things that I do when I go to my conscious go to another version of myself. The first thing I do is go to a mirror to watch myself and see what happened with my hair in that particular universe. I say, did I cut it? Do I have it straight?
long.
Do I have it like this? What happened? That's the first thing. But the second thing I do is see how many children I have. In this universe, I have a daughter, a son, a daughter, a daughter. And in some universes, it's different. I know that. And it is very difficult for the ego that identifies itself with one personality, one role, one career, one everything. I mean, we are this and that's it. And it is not. We are, oh, it's like a strategy for the soul to have a lot of a version of yourself so you can experience different elections that you make through your life. Well, I am a lawyer in this life and I am an architect in another life. And that really has to make you meditate about life. And sometimes when someone that you really love dies, then, well, yeah, in this universe, but you might be with that person in another one. Eventually, I understand that eventually everybody, I mean, all the versions will die in that, for that, I don't know, for that incarnation. that has many fractals. Is it that way? I mean, I think eventually you won't be in any of your versions. Then you begin again another cycle with another circumstances or whatever. I know. I also know that in another universe, my sons were crying, my husband was crying, and I was like, what's happening? And I didn't have hair, and I was dying from cancer. I was like, I don't know if I really died, because I think I might heal myself in that universe, because I understood that I really died, but I did have some cancer. And then I say, okay, then is that a future time? I mean, that what I saw, I say, is this something that I'm watching in this timeline that can happen in the future, or is something that is happening in a parallel universe? So what can you tell me about that? Because sometimes we dream about things, but they don't really have to be in this timeline. We really can change negative premonitions that we have, because they just not, if you, I don't know, you can transmute or change something. I mean, maybe resentment, fear, something that you're feeling, you can change that, and then you can go to a timeline that's not what is going to happen if it's negative. Is that correct? Is it, how do you?
Yeah, we often, on the timeline that we're currently on, this timeline, you know, as you mentioned, you can have dreams about the future, which are premonitions of things that may take place, and then we can take, you know, action to help ourselves or help our family or whatever, to avoid, you know, a bad situation or a negative situation. But I tend to think also that, like you mentioned, that sometimes these are also different universes or timelines. The different universes and timelines are the same thing. And something that happens, like you mentioned, having cancer on one timeline, but you don't have it where you are now. So sometimes the information that we're getting can pertain to a different timeline and a scenario that's taking place there. And like you mentioned, sometimes it could be the future too. But I haven't personally experienced, that I'm aware of, traveling in my physical body to the future on our current timeline. However, I, like you know, can tend to get lots of premonitions about events that may take place in the future, like warnings, like, you know, don't go down this path, you know, because such and such could happen. So I definitely think that what you're saying could be something that may occur, not necessarily on your timeline. I mean, it could occur somewhere else, and it could be taking place right now on a totally different timeline, especially since you access these different parallel universes through astral travel. You know, you're not necessarily up walking around going about your personal routine, your daily routine, and then all of a sudden you end up in this place where you have no hair and you're dying of cancer. You're accessing it through your astral body, or you're through astral travel. And so I tend to think that you may have accessed a different universe or a different timeline. I surely hope you didn't
Yeah,
access, you know,
well,
your future, you know.
yeah,
But
yeah, what I, yeah, that's the point. And then they say, well, I don't want that in this timeline point.
right.
And then I will activate myself in all the ways that I can to modify everything that I can right now to uplift my frequency and expect the best. Expect that what is going to happen is going to be the consequences of good changes that I'm making in my life, at mental changes, emotional changes, food changes, whatever. So I really think that we should not be afraid. But as you just mentioned, we should say, okay, this is something that might happen or is happening in another version, but I can, in this present, I can make changes.
Right. Mm-hmm.
And not think that that has to happen. No,
Right.
you can change. We
Right.
really can change our vibration. And that we have talked that also there are like parallel universes that really resemble one to another one. But then there is like, it's like a, I don't know, like a web, and you're right here. But the universe that are around are very similar. But if you go far and far away from this universe, they might get very different. Like you said, like some kids in one, no kids in the other one, completely different careers, or maybe at collective level, very different changes. Like in World War II, there are different things that happen in one universe and then in the other, in another universes. So that really is also that, I mean, I as I understand, you haven't go to a radical different universe and at collective level, like regarding the death, the World War II, or main historical events that are completely different. Is that true? I mean, can you elaborate?
Well, I have heard stories about exactly what you mentioned. Um, People that have actually traveled to parallel universes that are totally different. Like you mentioned, um, here, of course, Hitler didn't win World War II, but I was made aware of a story about a gentleman who crossed over into a parallel universe in which Hitler did win. He was totally shocked because the money, the money in his hand had Nazi insignia on it, and all of the signage around his town was Nazi signage. So, and everything was totally different. Of course, just think, how our world would be totally different if he would have won, and the Nazis would have been, in control and all of that. So he experienced something radically different. I haven't experienced something that extreme, and it's probably because I don't want to. I dreamt while I was sleeping, which is interesting, a few years ago, or I don't know exactly how many years ago it was, but I was going to experience parallel universes according to the dream that were radically different. Like I would be living in a different home each time, or my situation would be different each time, but it was decided either by me or maybe my spirit guides or somebody to not have me experience that, because imagine how stressful that would be. I mean, with the frequency that I end up crossing over into another universe, I mean, if every day or every other day I was crossing over into a place in which my home looked totally different, my life circumstances were totally different, I mean, to me it would just be
Too
very
much.
stressful, confusing, chaotic. I mean, if I couldn't even get in the car and know which roads I needed to drive down to get to the grocery store, then it would be horrible. I mean, the dream even mentioned the fact of going to places in which I was speaking totally different foreign languages.
Wow.
And I couldn't even, one day I'm speaking Chinese maybe, and the next day I'm speaking Russian or something. I mean,
Wow.
I thank God that doesn't happen. I mean, maybe for some people that are thrill
Yeah.
seekers, they would love that kind of an adventure, but I guess I'm getting too old.
Yeah.
I really don't want to deal with it. I'm probably getting too old and grumpy. I'm just like,
No, that yeah, that makes,
needs a peace.
yeah, is it, yeah, and the incertidumbre, uncertainty and
Uncertainty, yeah.
uncertainty, it has that really is not really fun to have all the time.
No.
It's good sometimes, but all the time, no, very hard, very interesting. Well, another thing that I wanted to talk about is something that I really makes me meditate when I wrote it, read it in your book. You said that all the parallel universes or version of Earth are on, I mean, about the same range of frequencies.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, but there are positive universes and more, I mean, what you could say negative universes between that range of frequency. But sometimes what we could say this is a positive universe, maybe is an extreme positive, but at the same time is negative. I mean, you think it's positive, but when you interact with the people, then you say, okay, this isn't as positive as you might think. Can you talk about that experience, because that's very interesting?
Yeah. And I just wanted people to realize that when we mention positive and negative, I know a lot of people say there's no negative in all of this, but it's just because there's no lack of better, I mean, there's no better terminology or way to explain it. I mean, what we're referring to here is when I say something's negative, it just doesn't feel good and fluffy and warm. It feels dissonant. It doesn't feel in harmony with your energy. It doesn't feel peaceful. It doesn't feel, something feels like it's amiss. It just doesn't feel quite right. That's what I know that's what you mean as well. And that's what I mean when we mention negative and positive, because I could tell you were trying to figure out,
Yeah, how to
how to
explain it.
explain it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then that's how I am too. And I even wrote it in my book. When I mention negative and positive, I know you people are thinking that, there's no negative, but there's just no other way to explain it.
Yeah.
When a place doesn't feel peaceful and good, and it doesn't feel, it feels dissonant or amiss. But what you say is true, that in some universes the energy could feel really good to you. It feels like it's positive, it feels warm, it feels good. And in others it may not feel that way. Like I mentioned before, the energy may feel heavy. It might be even a little difficult, for me anyways, to breathe, because I have issues with my lungs to begin with. But if you're going down to a lower vibration universe, the energy might be so dense in a way that it starts to affect your physical body, and it might feel dissonant. Some universes, the energy might pervade you and feel as though it's agitating your internal organs. in such a way that it doesn't feel very comfortable. But as you mentioned, there are universes that on the surface, they might feel good, like warm and cuddly and fuzzy and just wonderful and positive, as we would say, due to lack of better terminology. But you get there, and this actually happened to me, and you realize that it's not so positive, really, because the people there might have a different attitude. What happened was I was having kind of a bad day. It's kind of funny, one of the universes that I've traveled to, and I end up there quite a bit, I call it the accident prone zone, because you could go there and everything just seems to go wrong. I mean, you could get out of bed and stub your toe and go into the bathroom and drop something on the floor. You could trip. And one day when I was in that particular universe, I watched in horror as I live in a condominium complex, and I watched in horror as a real estate agent pulled into our parking lot and backed up and plowed into my car. And so it wasn't just me experiencing the negative, it was other people experiencing the negative in this particular universe. But I was in this place one day, and just everything just seemed to go wrong. And I thought, I just wish I could get out of this place. It's just nothing going right, everything going wrong. I went to the bank, and I was signing a check that someone sent me, and the ink pen wouldn't work. I had to check a bunch of ink pens. I cut my finger, and it was bleeding on the check, and then it was cold that day, so the car was cold. My hands were starting to freeze, and it was hard to sign my name on the check. I mean, it was just kind of a bad place, and I was like, gosh, I wish I could get out of this place, you know. Well, to my surprise, shortly thereafter, I did get out of that place, and I ended up in a universe in which everything, like you mentioned, was just wonderful and great. It just seemed, the energy just felt wonderful. It felt like it was of a higher energy vibration, and it just felt warm and like love and all of this. And but I noticed as I started to interact with the people there that the people weren't as kind, and they weren't as friendly, if at all. And they were lacking in personality. And I thought, well, what's wrong? You know, I mean, this is a wonderful place. It feels so good here. You know, I'd want to stay here. But I found out by going within, a lot of times if I go within and question things, I get the answer. It either comes through to me psychically, or something will happen in my life. There will be some synchronicity that happens that shows me that this is what was going on and this is what was happening. But the information that came through to me was that, you know, these people in that place, yeah, they were at a higher energy vibration that matched the place, you know, that particular universe, but they hadn't gone through the difficulties in life that people in other universes had gone through. Like maybe they hadn't lost their job, maybe they hadn't gone through hunger, maybe they hadn't experienced difficulties in life, so they didn't learn a sense of humility, I guess you'd say. They weren't as, yeah, humility, humbleness. They were lacking in kindness. I guess they were used to things manifesting instantaneously. I noticed in that place that a light thought, some universes you go to and you just have to put so much effort and energy into trying to manifest something into reality, and it could take years, it could take months, it could take weeks, days, whatever, for something to manifest, if it ever gets around to manifesting at all. But if you go to this particular universe, didn't have to hardly put any effort into thinking about what I desired. It just instantaneously manifested. So, wow. and the interesting thing is your mindset is more positive, so you don't think in the negative, so nothing negative manifests. it's just all positive, positive, positive things happening in your life. But I noticed that the people weren't necessarily matching that wonderful feeling place, and the kindness wasn't there, and the respect and all of that. And I thought, well, what's going on? And the information that came through to me when I went within to inquire what was going on, it was because they hadn't lived through any difficulties in life. They were used to things instantaneously manifesting in a positive way in their life, and not having any effort, have to put any effort into anything, basically. And so they were used to, I guess maybe they were impatient, if, you know, didn't want to take the time for things, you know, and so they lacked the kindness, you know, they were just used to snapping their fingers and everything just instantaneously manifests. And it's not to say that we all should go through hunger or difficulties in life. I mean, I don't believe that everybody needs to be starving on the streets or whatever in order to be a good person or anything like that. That's not what I'm saying. I'm just saying that the people just were lacking something, you know, the kindness wasn't there. So it made me think, well, the place feels wonderful and great and everything, and it seems like a positive place, but it almost seemed like maybe it was a false positive place in a sense, because the people certainly weren't matching the energy of the place with their personalities.
Yeah, and when I read that story in of many, I mean, I really recommend people to read the books because they're incredible. I mean, for me, it was a change in my perspective of life. And is that's the thing. Do we have to go to through pain in order to learn to align ourselves with love and peace and harmony? Do we have to or no? And maybe that's one of the things that have been going on for many thousands of years in this cycle, and that maybe that, from what I have heard, is coming to an end. I mean, the end of that game, when you can experience a lot of things from a lot of pain through a lot of pleasure and all of the between, then right now we're changing. I mean, the earth is changing the vibration, the frequency, and then we're entering like another level of the game, or another level of reality, where again we're gonna have a lot of multiple version of the earth, but they are going to be available on another range of frequency. And if you're not there, you can call it 5D or whatever, but if you're not there from in that range, okay, then you won't be able really to experience that new earth. And your soul will have to be take to another planet that is prepared to take you there to experience a lot of experiences, but on 3D. But from what I understand, on 5D, the earth has decided, like, because has a soul, has conscious, to not to sustain life below a frequency. Can you tell us a little bit about this change that we're living right now with? I think it means that a lot of timelines that are of a lot of low frequency are being erased. And we have to prepare ourselves by changing a lot of things on our life to be able to live in that other earth. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, it's interesting that you mention Earths being erased, because I've never mentioned that in any of my books. I've never mentioned it to anybody because I don't want to scare people. And but it's true. I've experienced it for myself personally many, 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 many times. It's true. There have been many different parallel universes that have come into existence, which have duplicate Earths on them. And many of them have already been erased from existence. And to my knowledge, before this takes place, the people and the animals and the souls are lifted off from those Earths so that they aren't erased from existence. But those universes are actually totally erased from existence. And I hate to mention this because it's really sad. It's really sad to me, because there are places that I've been and I've lived and other people have too. But what happens is they aren't needed anymore. The people, as we change, as you mentioned, and everything is in a period of change right now. So because they aren't needed anymore, they don't need to be occupied. And so they're erased. And in some of those spaces and those universes, there's still space. The space still exists. The Earth isn't there. I don't know about the other planets and the stars and everything else. But in some cases, that entire space has even ceased to exist.
Wow.
And closed up. And I've never mentioned this to anyone before, but I have experienced. I wasn't there, of course, when it happened, or I wouldn't be sitting here right now.
Yeah.
But thank God. But there are things that you can feel psychically what's going on a psychic level. And what you mentioned is it's very, very important right now for everybody to try to be the best people that they can be.
Yeah, the best version of ourselves.
Best version of yourself, your divine self. Because, and I'm not talking about going out and making a bunch of money or going out, unless you need to provide, for your family and all of that. I mean, we all have to make money. But when I'm talking about being your best, I'm talking about one of the things that's very, very, very important that has been brought to my attention is being kind to others. Do not be mean to others. Do not, steal from others. Do not. And I hate, it sounds like I'm preaching the Bible here, but that's not my intent. It's because I know people don't like to be preached to, but I just wanted to say this and share this with everyone, because one of the things that has been so very important that has been brought to my attention is people being kind to others, because we have to be kind to others. That will change the insides, change us, internally as well, but also help other people. If they're being treated better, then they'll treat others better. And it just goes round and round and round. Everybody will start treating everybody better. And that will help raise the vibration of all of us and the earth and everything, which is, like you mentioned, it helps us to get to that higher frequency that you were talking about, and preparing for, going to a higher plane of existence, instead of being, I hate to use the word trapped, but being down at a 3D level, a third dimension level, with all of the fighting and the chaos and arguing and
the extreme
all that,
duality.
The dual reality and all of that. So very, very important. And I'm glad you mentioned it, because I do mention these things in the other book that I wrote, the How to Achieve Fifth Dimension Consciousness. I can't recall if I mentioned the kindness, because that has recently become has recently come to my attention, especially within the past, I don't know, maybe year or two. And I wrote that book prior to that, so I can't recall if I included it in there. But there are other tips for people to help, lift their level, help them improve themselves, and to raise their frequency, and to try to stay at a more positive level of existence and consciousness, especially during these times that you're mentioning, that everybody's, the intent is that we all, get to a higher frequency, and get out of this third dimension, 3D,
Yeah, that we don't
place.
have to. And the thing is that
Yeah,
is that
right.
is that your soul does not need to experience pain to be kind.
Right,
I mean,
exactly.
can we be kind
Without
without
it.
the pain?
Yeah,
Without going through painful experiences? That's the point. So
right,
that's the issue, being kind because you want to be kind, and
right,
you're naturally kind to yourself first,
right.
then to others. That's, I think, one of the issues of understanding we're going to another reality where that kind of experiences are not needed for the
Right,
soul. But there are some souls that right now still need those kind of experiences, and those souls are not bad. They're
no,
just souls that in their whatever eternity life need to still experience that kind of things. So it's okay. It's not that some are good and some are bad. So it's just a thing of what do you need as a soul right now.
right,
So what we can do is that what is what you're saying, align yourself with the better version of yourself, intentionally, consciously, all the time. Every time you do something, or just think, why am I doing things this, out of pain, out of fear, out of guilt, or out of love, or whatever? Why
right.
am I doing what I'm doing?
Mhm.
Or relationships, whatever, everything. Well, this has been a very interesting interview, Trish. Thank you very much. We're yeah, getting to the end, but um, I I would like you to well, have a last word for the community that is listening to us right now. Well, invite them to your webpage. Can you say your webpage? I will write it down, but you can say it. And well, I think one last question. This universe, the one we're talking right now, this one, how do you feel it? Do you feel it is balanced? Is more positive? Is what? What do you feel right now about this universe that
Ac-
we're talking about right now?
Actually, I'm glad you asked that question. Actually, this universe feels pretty good. It feels very neutral, and but more so on the positive side, going above the neutral. So it's not feeling like those universes that I mentioned before about, not being able to breathe very easily because the energy is just so dense, and I haven't tripped and fallen down in here nor anything, nor had a bunch of accidents. So I'm not in that place that I call the accident prone zone. So I don't think I'm there. But yeah, it feels pretty good here. I mean, it's not feeling to me like it's this overwhelmingly dissonant feeling type of a place. It doesn't feel like anything horrible is going on. I mean, not in my personal life anyways. It feels pretty good to be here. I think, I'm glad that I'm experiencing doing this interview here rather than somewhere where he might be gasping for air or something, you know.
Okay, well,
Yeah.
great. Yeah, I was like, I have a last question. What
Yeah.
about this
Yeah.
universe?
It's good. It's good.
Good, great, great. I think that's what it is. I mean, we're moving towards the better, the better versions of Earth until we are going to make the shift. And when we make the shift, that shift is going to live like that. I mean, all the versions are going to be on fifth dimension, all the versions. It is going to be, I mean, different possibilities, but between that range of higher dimensional frequency of the Earth. I think that's where we're going right now. I mean, in a couple of months or years, but I think we are going to live that transition with these bodies. It's not going to be, we're going to live it. We're going to watch that movie. We're in it consciously, though that change, that quantum uh, jump, whatever.
Right.
Well, thank you very much, Trish. It has been wonderful talking to you. I hope I try to explain myself in English. It's not really easy. When you talk about metaphysics in English. So thank you very much. We have another interview in Spanish. I will write it down here. So, well, I again buy these books on her webpage. They are incredible and very useful right now to have this information because that's what we are going through, that shift. And well, Trish explains everything with a lot of detail, and we can use that for our life to be a better version of ourselves right now. I think you can say a few last words and goodbye.
Okay. Yeah, what you mentioned is, you know, very important. I think to sum it all up, you know, just everybody focus on leading with your heart, you know, just what feels right in your heart, um, without being, you know, too religious and everything, because I know some people aren't religious, but, you know, sometimes I personally think, well, what do I think would Jesus do in this situation? I mean, you know, if I'm sitting there not sure what I'm going to do, I mean, he was the guy with all of the morals, more so than any of us could ever hope to have, you know.
Yes.
What would he do in this situation? And, you know, just in that way, lead with your heart, you know. He was heart-centered, you know, we can be heart-centered too and lead with our hearts. And I think if you do that, you know, that in itself will help all of us, you know, get to a better place and be a better version of ourselves and be our divine self. I
Yeah.
really do.
Thank you. Thank you for those last words. They are perfect. I think Jesus explained it all.
Yeah,
Said
exactly.
it's love. Love is the answer, and
Yeah.
love is a frequency. It really is. And if you really get there, you align with your divine self, and then you will accompany the new earth, and it will be, I think it will be wonderful. I know it will be a wonderful transition, and we're going to be very grateful for what we have accomplished as a soul, and but we're ready for something different. And well, thank you very much to all of you that watched this video. Please uh, like and share it to someone else, because many are waiting for this information, and if you think it's useful for you, maybe it's useful for someone else. So share it to other people. I think. Thank you very much. Thank you, Trish. Bye-bye.
Bye. Thank you for
Bye.
having me. I really
Bye.
appreciate it. Bye-bye.
Bye.